Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for this month's office hours. It should be interesting. With us today are two representatives, Derek and Alex from CRG Technologies. They're going to talk a little bit about their company, what they do, as well as a Layer 7 portal customization tool that they've developed. And they're going to follow that up with API Hub and a couple of other areas like their training course they have. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex and Derek.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate the time today to present this material and such. My name is Derek Orr, the Managing Director of CRG Technologies. We're a handful of individuals that are all ex Layer 7, CA, Broadcom, and HCLs, senior consultants and architects that have been working with and partnering with Broadcom to build out solutions and sort of customize services engagements for our customers. The specifics around today's call really are sort of generated from discussions that both Alex, myself, and a few others have sort of had with different customer engagements, and where we sort of filled the specific need in the market is really kind of building this sort of in-depth training course off of this API Hub UI with some sort of customization embedded in the training, as well as sort of consulting efforts to help customers build out their specifics in around their needs. Today, I don't know if many folks know who Alex Forsythe is, but I'm sure you do. He's come aboard CRG's, one of the five that I highlighted earlier. He is a vast amount of knowledge in this space and in Layer 7 in general. He's been around the market since the Layer 7 days, but it's great to have him aboard, and he brings just a ton of experience and just a better, awesome human to be friends with and whatnot. So, anyways, with that sort of introduction, I don't want to take up too much time, but I want to hand over the keys to Alex and let him run with the presentation. And please, if you have any questions, I'll be on this meeting, and we'll try to answer as quickly as we possibly can. So off to you, Alex.
Thanks, Derek. Thanks for the kudos. I hope I can live up to it. But yeah, I did spend many years with Broadcom Layer 7, and I'm enjoying presenting this. I didn't have much time to delve into API Hub, but I did work with customers who were fully engaged with it, so I saw some of the struggles they had. And we'll talk more about the project, but I just want to introduce, Derek helped bring on a couple of designers to work through me with the design and helping with the documentation. So Keiko, I don't know if you want to say just a couple words, and Itzel, if you're on the call.
Hi, good morning. My name is Keiko Shimizu. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I was working as a UI developer for this project.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Itzel Hernandez, and I had the opportunity to work as the UI designer for this project. Yeah, and it was really great working with Keiko and Alex, and as Derek said, they were great people to work with.
Yeah, thanks, you too. And I have to say, this team was a great team to work with too. I guess part of this would be, if you're doing this type of work and you're working with designers, they went through the API Academy, API designer course, got certified, and then they started working on this. So they had developed a little understanding of the Layer 7 products and design skills. So that was kudos to them for making that effort. So with them working on this project with me, we came out with this new UI design and some documentation. So just to kick off the agenda here, that'll be a quick look at API Hub. We only have about half hour to 40 minutes, and then we'll answer questions, but feel free to ask questions as we go along too. So we'll look at the architecture because that was a bit of a mystery to me up front and to some of the customers I've dealt with. So just to clarify that, we'll look at the GitHub project that's public and accessible and the development environment to set up. We'll deploy the example reference implementation with mock data. We'll look at the training objectives for this project and what the outcomes were. Then we'll look at, okay, what does it take to customize landing pages, logins and registration with API Hub, and then customizing once you get past that point, how do you customize API and application pages and the home page? And finally, we'll look at the customized UI build using API portal data. So we'll transition from mock data to portal data. So to start off, many of you are probably familiar with the landing page for the Layer7 API portal out of the box. And the outcome of this, working with the developers, we did this in about 6 weeks. And this is with people that weren't experienced. Both Keiko and Itzel are starting off their careers, and I'm near the tail end of my career. So let's just take a quick look at what we came out with here. Go to landing page first here. Okay. So this is the transition from the API portal interface to this Be Safe Bank interface. So the branding was all done by Itzel and the development by Keiko, and with a little help of me with environment and setting something up in AWS. So yeah, when you log in, you have all the APIs, applications, and the functionality that you get for a consumer. So just to give you a heads up where we're going, so this will be the outcome of what we're going to walk through here, how we got to that point. So just starting with a little of the system architecture and planning, just because many of you here on the call are probably in services or have managed projects before. And a lot of this is upfront work that can save you time and frustration as well as the project. So securing access to the API portal, API gateways, and web servers. So this is web servers are the new component where we're going to deploy the front end app. Be aware that HTTPS only allowed across the network, and CORS domain restrictions are enforced by the portal for security. So you have to consider firewall and load balancer port and service configuration on your network, and restrict traffic through those ports and services that are necessary. Think about, hopefully you've already got redundancy built into portal and gateway, but think about web server redundancy. So that gives you some front end redundancy on the client app when you're building the front end. Some customers have left this till late, but and just forged ahead without looking really in detail at what Layer7 has to offer for configuration with the front end. Recently, to integrate better with customers, the JOT tokens were added as an option. And then one customer had problems with SMT mail server configuration. So think ahead about that, because there are compliance issues with mail servers. And if you have the portal residing in the cloud outside of the corporate network, you could run into troubles. So just a quick diagram of the architecture. So this Web Server API Hub client app, that's the one where we'll be deploying the client app. So this could be on-premise in the corporate network. It could be out in the cloud somewhere. I'll show you a couple options there. So locking down the firewall in this configuration on AWS and the corporate firewall. Nice thing about API Hub, and I'll talk specifically about different use cases. You can have multiple gateway clusters attached to this API portal. So you could have one in the cloud, you could have one on-prem, you could have one in another cloud environment. API portal manages all those deployments, but on top of that, Layer7 gives you the flexibility to have these front-end client apps that could represent these different clusters that the portal is managing. And it's multi-tenant and multi-cluster, so all kinds of options for use cases and design. I'd say the leader in the industry in that regard. As well as the gateway is the most secure gateway in the industry too. So some application architecture for API Hub UI designers to become familiar with. I'm sure many of you are familiar with portal APIs. That's well documented here in the documentation. So I'll send this presentation out to everybody after so that you have these links. Broadcom Layer7 adheres to API first design as much as possible. Most features or almost all features that are available in the UI, maybe even more features are available in APIs than in actual UI. So when you're building your own, that gives you a ton of flexibility. You have SaaS or on-prem API portal supported. For the developers, you have a Swagger file so you can validate and test data queries that you need to display with client tools like Postman. So very useful to have that and to experiment with that ahead of time. So some of the APIs provided very useful for the front-end UI development. They're the CRUD operations around APIs, applications, user management, and workflow for registering developers. So in addition to this, we never got to this point because we're just working with Layer7 APIs, but you can integrate corporate API sources as well into user interface with this tooling. So very flexible. So looking at the reference implementation in GitHub, this is a picture of it once it's built and stands up. You see it's fairly basic, but it's built to give you an example of a simple page with examples on LDAP, SAML, login techniques. The landing page is built with JavaScript and React. It's a very open source front-end JavaScript library, and it does simplify development. Most in the industry are using that. Branding and workflows are easily changed. And Keiko has some examples in the repository on that. And then there is documentation already in GitHub for front-end UI developers to build off of. So one important thing in the architecture for application architecture for API Hub is the fact smartly the developers built in mock data in the reference implementation. This example application that we'll build shortly. There's configuration files, a simple change to go from mock to API portal data source. So this allows you to kick off the project very quickly with an iterative design with business without the external dependencies of installation and configuration and integrating with the portal. So the different API portal roles and users in the mock data are represented here. And this is just a link if you don't understand roles and users of the portal to go in there and understand what are configured and what it means to be a portal admin, API owner, org publisher, org admin, and developer. So that's important to understand ahead of time in the architecture. So this mock data represents that. So you can get a feel with it, feel for it without even connecting to the portal. Okay, so the GitHub project and development environment setup, programming language is JavaScript, and we have React. It's more flexible libraries, and React Admin 3.10.3 for tabular data that simplifies displaying that. And before we build anything, you have to have installed Node.js 12.16.3. This is 5.2.2. I think that's been upgraded in 5.2.3 to a newer Node.js version. You have to install Make 3.8.1 higher, and also Yarn. So this is a tool. Yet another resource manager for managing JavaScript library dependencies. So very useful. Make sure your build environment has all the right libraries in it when you go to build. So step one for this is just to clone the repository. I'll show you that in a second. So just clone that down locally as a developer. You make install JavaScript library dependencies, and this uses Yarn to ensure the correct libraries are installed. And then you make start, and that starts the mock data reference implementation on this port in your browser. So let's just give that a try here. And I can show you a bit of the repository as well. This is a checked out repository. Let me just go to show you GitHub here. I'll go this route through documentation so you know that you can get to it this way. So this is the Portal 5.2 documentation. And here's some documentation on customizing. It talks about prerequisites and the API Hub GitHub repository. So this is it here. This is what we're going to pull down. So we have all of these, all of the source code here and the different releases. So let's go back to the terminal session here. We'll get out of Derek's final demo there. We'll start a new one. So let's just pull down from GitHub. We're going to clone this branch 5.2.2 and bring it down locally to start developing. Okay. Now, this is also in the instructions in GitHub. We're going to run this make install, which uses Yarn to download and install the packages we need. We're still in here. Oops. So there's the package we just downloaded, May 30th. You can see some of the definitions here. We'll look at it while this is pulling down and we're building it. Later, we'll look a little closer at the repository here, but let's install the libraries. Takes about 30 seconds. So this deployment step to start takes a little longer because it does a lot of compiling and starting of the app locally. Okay, so that completed all right. So now we're just going to start the app, and it should start up this reference implementation start up locally on this port. Okay, well, that's running. Let's take a look at the environment here a little bit. So here you can see the make file. We checked out, you can see some of these targets. So there's the install target using Yarn to install the packages. And the packages are under this folder, conveniently named packages. So you can see the example app there. So this is the reference implementation. So just to confirm what version of Node I'm running, you can check with Node -v. So I'm running the right version. -v and make right version 3.81. So those are the prerequisites. Okay, we can see this starting up on localhost 3000 now. It's compiling here. It's the terminal where I started it. Okay, here we are, we're logged in. So this is the reference implementation. And you can look at the APIs here. This is the mock data that comes out of the box. So no connection to the portal at this point, just reference implementation for you to start working. And you have applications. And this is where we started. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. Let's carry on here. So this training project, the objectives were to build out some better training material for front-end UI developers. We combined some of my experience, Derek's experience with UI designer and developer, and we stored the notes of steps of development in GitHub in a CRG Tech training repository. Tried to improve documentation and clarify some development steps, gave some feedback to Broadcom product management there, define pros and cons of the approach, and compare with alternative products implementations. This was interesting for me because as Broadcom, I had a hard time registering for Kong and Apogee and feeling good about it, but as an independent, I can do this. So Kong, interesting enough, has a very similar React kind of customized UI framework that we have, very, very similar. Apogee, I was just looking to see, because I worked with Apogee a while back on a project moving to Layer7. They're using Drupal still, from what I see in the comment. Recently, what I saw in a blog was, can you guys use React, or are you stuck with Drupal? So I think we're on the right track with this. So vSafe Bank training repository. This is what we set up with Keiko, the developer, worked with Itzel and developed all of this documentation. So it's cloned from the GitHub repository and just added more detail to it for this particular project. And you can see landing page documentation with links, and all of these, we'll get into it, but in a second here, but define how to set these up just to get you going. So there's a README file, enhanced README with these steps, step-by-step instructions, and official documentation. URLs where Keiko thought it was important to have references to React Admin or Material UI links. She's put those in there as well. And then each of these are conveniently tagged. I guess the release manager and me wanted everything tagged so that we could do differences between steps, between landing page, authentication page, create new page, and home page. So the README, let's take a quick look at the README here. So this is the landing page. This is just a README file in CRG's repository. So creating a new blank page. Gives you some detail on that. Implementing local switcher. So a lot of this would probably not make sense to a lot of us, but to developer, it would be very helpful. Okay. And then back here, these are the tags. So we've documented each step along the way. So this is the initial code from layer 7. This is the change. These are the changes. That this tag is the change for landing page, and an incremental landing page final version, creating a new page, authentication pages, and home page. So, all pretty well documented there. So back to the design considerations, we talked a little bit about architecture and things to think about ahead of time as a partner or customer going down this path of developing your custom UI. Work early with the business. I know some customers have taken a long time to get to the point where they have the branding and the page layouts they want for a landing page. So you can get that going really early. That would probably help save you time. Keiko really thought the landing page done with JavaScript and React was very flexible, and she didn't have much trouble with that, developing that, so that's good. Registration and workflow, this is something that is important to engage the business and security with early. That can be very time consuming. Email workflow is important up front, and depending where you are in the cloud or on premise, it can be some security concerns about connecting to the Exchange server. Login designs are very important, as we discussed in the architecture, making sure that's configured and identified early in the cycle. And then more portal related are authorization roles and organizations, key components to think about and understand ahead of time. So that's something I touched on earlier in the documentation. Understand very well what the roles are for the users in the portal. So example of the modified landing page. So these are references. I won't go into these, but these are links that you'll have in the documentation to go take a look at. So that's the changes that were done in fairly rapid timing. This is the out-of-the-box reference implementation for login and BeSafe Bank branding changes. Once again, tags there. So let's just log in here and look at the landing page and log in and sign up here. With the mock data. So this is still development without actually connecting to the portal. So there's the sign in landing page we looked at. There's the sign in. So if you forgot your password, all this functionality works, but so I get emails and to reset my password and all that. and creating a new account. So the branding's changed there. But all of this works just as it would in the other portal, the out-of-the-box portal with Broadcom branding. Okay. So customization of the home API and application pages. A little bit different now. You're logged in, you've got your password figured out. Now you're working in the home page API and application pages. So this is where some of the React admin functionality comes into play. So you have built-in data provider and displays for APIs and applications. So some of these search keeps the search interface consistent, and it's easy to implement those tables of data. Some restrictions will apply because of the React admin modularizing code, making it easier for UI developers. Menu options can be added on the left here, in case you weren't aware. And menu option labels can be changed as well. So we just modified what's out of the box wiki to be safe news products. So you could use other APIs to do things in this menu and build your own useful data displays. So columns can be added to this table to supplement additional data from those API calls as well. And of course, the colors and branding, you still did a good job with that. So there's the modified homepage and links there. And examples of the sidebar and header and footer changes. So all of this is documented, how those changes are done. Let me just log in again here. This is still with mock data. Go back to the beginning here. Mock data. Okay, so this is the home page, quite a bit different than the reference implementation. Let's see if I have that up here still. Here it is. So the home page here uses a wiki to develop your home page. In this case, we just took out that wiki and built our own home page, so it looks a lot better. APIs, tabular list. Once again, this is using React admin to build this tabular data and search functions here. So if you look at adding a filter here, enabled. This is kind of out of the box behavior you get with React admin. And then this products, we didn't do anything with products, but if you know, something in the portal you wanted to display with respect to products, you know, you can build your own functionality here with the APIs provided. Okay. Okay, now we get to the fun part of deploying a customized app. So how do we deploy this thing? So there's a build folder that you can deploy to, you can run it locally, or you can take that build folder and deploy it to something like Netlify or AWS Amplify, Docker, or a Kubernetes container. So lots of flexibility there for, I mean, you can have multiple servers as well, depending on your use cases. So here's an example. This is what we used was Netlify. So deployed example here. This was out of the box. You can see this was deployed in Netlify, so we just uploaded the, let's see, still have that open. Yeah, so this is Netlify, just added a new site. You can deploy manually and just upload your folder here. So you pick your folder here, your build folder, and upload, and you're off to the races with this deployed. Here's another one with our customized app deployed to Netlify. Okay, where can we deploy? So this is the flexibility you have. So here's Netlify. You can have on-premise, Netlify, AWS. They have something called Amplify or Kubernetes or Docker containers. So lots of flexibility there for deploying the customized UI. The fun part is connecting these two together. So the portal and the web server, wherever it may reside. So that's the final part here. So customizing UI build, you have to go into the config file and modify this, change the URL to your tenant name. So where does this reside? Mine is in the cloud. The tenant name is tenant1. And I've named my hub Be Safe Bank Partner 1. And I said, now I want this to be false. So I don't want to enable mock. This used to be true. So let's just take a quick look here. And it's good to go into Portal APIs here and look at the actual interface for this particular tenant. Remember tenant1 I said? Let's go down here to settings. This is where you set. So these two things you can get what API hubs you have, and then you can create a new one. So this is the data we're talking about in the presentation here that has to match up. This part here is actually on the terminal. So this is built into your application. Break out of here. So these are the configures. Actually, I'll go into the one Derek had here. Just about done here. So this is one I deployed for Derek's demo. Okay, see the config. Here we are here. So see, I got this tenant name here and I rebuilt it and deployed it to Netlify. So all of these are matching up with what I have on the portal. So if you go back to the portal here, let's just get API hub settings here. You see, this matches up and this matches up. And then it's important to have the correct domain so that matches up. So I'd advise too, when you're here and you're putting stuff, creating new ones, to come in here and just use this, because you can use this data. They've got examples of it, and just do the put here and create your API hub. You go back here, you can see here, yep, there it is, Be Safe Bank Partner 1. So this is all, these settings are for the application are all pretty well defined in the README. So the second step we did is registering your hosting domain here. These demo settings, portal settings, getting and putting your API hub settings. And then just some important notes from my experience, some of the struggles. You must match these configuration files in the application with what you put in the portal. So this is part of a security thing with cores and locking down who can access the portal with the client app beyond IDPs. So subdomains must be included in the host field. So Netlify adds like a long string unique identifier at the beginning. Case sensitive, so beware if you have capital A instead of lowercase a, it won't work. So case sensitive on those. This happened to us, the cut and paste hidden characters into the put request. So that can be tricky. I'm sure people run into that. And caution with the payload, which I did again last night by mistake late last night. So I had to recreate it, just experimenting. So if you do that put here, you can have multiple API hubs. So you can have multiple API hubs in front of it, multiple API clusters. So very, very flexible. Just caution with the payload, when you add a new one, you have to add the original plus the new ones in the payload, or you overwrite the original one. Just a little note there. So let's just log into the portal. I'm going to just show you the change here. So we've been looking at mock data up till now. This is the final step here. And we're going to look at this one here with portal data. So we built it with portal data. We took out the mock data. So this was the moment of truth. Sign in here. Log in as administrator. Okay. APIs, there are BSafe Bank APIs. So we've gone quickly from mock data to real data. That's the final step. So thank you all for your participation. I see something in the chat here. Is it possible to have multiple portals pointing to one tenant and have each portal show manage a subset of APIs? The one portal has multiple tenants. Are you talking about, Vince, maybe come on and explain. You can have the portal have multi-tenants and multiple clusters. We need several external porters for different business verticals.
I think Alex, he's basically,
Sorry.
think the question is.
Couldn't find the microphone.
Okay, Vince. Yeah, so you can have multiple tenants, right, with their own sets
Multiple
of
tenants, not a problem.
APIs,
But
you
multiple portals pointing to a tenant, and then each portal actually has like a subset of APIs. So from your tenant, then you can say, I only want these APIs to be shown on this portal, and these APIs shown on this portal.
you say tenants, are you talking like portal tenants or gateways?
I'm talking about, let's forget about gateways, and you've just got, let's say you've got 3 APIs that are managed by all of your proxies and everything behind. So you've got 3 APIs, and you've got, let's say 3 developer portals, right? And each one shows just one of those APIs.
Yep.
But all those 3, you want centrally somebody to manage those 3 APIs. So you wouldn't have it in 3 tenants. You would only want one tenant to manage those 3 APIs, but have a visibility to external consumers for just that one API rather than all 3. So it's almost like an organizational thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's about what I was getting ready to say. So tenant wise, no, there's not like a super portal that can see all other portal tenants and like help you manage those. But yeah, you could make it the API set of APIs owned by a specific organization, market as private, so they're only visible to specific organizations. So I think the organizational structure within a portal would allow you to control that visibility, but
Yeah, I think that may be the way to
separate
go for that.
portal. Yeah.
I think that's a nice thing about the customization, because you can, in your customization interface, you could connect to multiple portal tenants right from the one interface. So you could build it
Okay,
that
I think we've answered my question. I think I've sort of answered it myself actually as well.
way. Okay, good.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Anyone contemplating building something custom?
Another question just come in through chat.
Okay.
You were logging in. I saw a space. You can fill in a space from a user. What does it do?
Logging into
To the portal.
in here.
Somewhere before the demo.
Are you talking on the top right corner of the main portal UI?
No, I saw him logging in, and then you can fill in a space. I was wondering what it does. No, not in this one.
Oh, this was it. Creating an account here.
Yeah, organization works. Okay, that's just What does the organization do here? Will it create the organization in the port?
Yeah. So this
Okay,
is basic functionality. So this is customizable too. Like I know some customers have built this slightly different, so they have a governance on this registration. So sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. You can remove it if you don't want that, and you're managing it internally. Who can actually have accounts? This one is the out of the box, so you'll get an email. I've tested this. I don't have time to do it here, but with this custom API hub, all of that functionality is there. I'll get an email, register, go through that workflow. That's why it's important, I think, to understand upfront what the business wants and what security wants when you're building this, because it's quite flexible. And I think a lot of times with this, you can build in a stronger governance and security with who accesses it. Like when you're looking at the architecture there, you're looking at the web server on premise, you can just lock that totally. Even in the cloud, you have control over who accesses these front-end UIs, right? You could have just one use case, maybe just an administration you've built in to access the portal and administer APIs. So, you may have a jump server or something accessing it. So lots of flexibility in locking down who accesses these.
Okay. But when you fill in an organization here, will it map in the portal if that organization exists? Or not?
This one will create, I believe, Greg, correct me if it'll create a new one, right? Every time
Yeah,
you do.
I think it will create a new one, and it would be up to the admin if it's a duplicate to,
Okay.
set that correctly, right?
Okay.
And I think that was an enhancement recently, right? You couldn't remap them.
Yeah, that was, I think that went in 5.2.2, if I recall correctly, where, when you now are approving registration requests, you can change organizations, change roles, all that stuff as part of the approval process. Yeah.
Before they get the email back, right? So that's, that's what you want to do in the governance of it. But the only other thing I guess enhancement would be if, and maybe you don't want users picking their organizations, but maybe there's internally you want to bypass that and have them all go into one organization, and just have it automatically approved. So that's possible too. So different workflows for different front ends, different clusters. Just depends what you want, I guess.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you guys for your time. Let's go ahead and open it up for general question or Q&A, as well as any other questions you might have for our guests today. Well, while you're thinking, let me point out that next month's office hours will be June 27th. This month's office hours has been or is being recorded and will be posted later on today up on Communities. Going forward, you'll be able to find out the subject for the next office hours up on Communities on the primary Layer 7 page, rather than it be in the email. So you'll need to go actually to Communities just to find out what it is. And I also will be socializing all of that also. So any other questions for today?
I had one other note here. So because we have multilingual in our developers, we were looking at Spanish and other languages. So that's the advantage of React Admin 2. You get that basically for free. So we're looking at, I know there was a problem with persisting languages, but we're looking at that as well and maybe providing material in multiple languages for people. So going through that. I know React Admin has a recent upgrade that has a lot more flexibility in persisting these type of settings.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, we don't just have English customers.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, then I'll go ahead and end today's call. And thank you all for joining us today. And thank you for our guest, Alderic and gang. And we will see you next month on June 27th at Layer 7 office hours. Thank you again and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks, Derek, Alex, and team. Appreciate your work on this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Good day, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.